Credit Suisse. Neal, I want to get right to core inflation. There's all these different policies we can talk about and jobs we can talk about. Here's a chart back 5 years. That yellow line, folks, is 2%. That's sort of kind of like where we ought to be. And you can see the disinflation, the worry about deflation, and that right angle, that hockey stick below 2%. Neal, what does that sharp and abrupt turn in core inflation signal to you?
Oh, it strikes me that when all is said and done, the inflation outlook now at the core level is driven by three interrelated forces. The first is, will we have enough jobs and enough wages so that people can, so to speak, afford to pay the higher prices that manufacturers and others would like to pass along to them because of things that are happening at headline levels, like gasoline, like food. Second related phenomenon to that is, what about rents? We have had a big housing problem in the country for several years now. The effect of that, I would guess, is that there's a larger portion of the population that is not eligible to be homeowners. They're moving into renting status. My guess is that overlaps with the same people who are having trouble with the gas bill and the food bill. Can they, in fact, continue to sustain all the other prices in the economy as these things move forward? And finally, is there any real pass-through from the dollar directly to that fraction of the core that is imported? And I must say, my view of this is that if we get increases in core inflation now, it is significantly a statistical phenomenon. Doesn't mean it isn't happening to real people, but it's not the kind of thing that monetary policy can do much about.
Right, and monetary policy can't do much about it, and they do have to react to the news. We saw ADP this morning. Did your team lower their non-farm payrolls view for Friday, given the challenging ADP that we saw?
Yeah, we did not. And we did not for a simple reason, and that is we were kind of at the low end of expectations anyway. As we read the consensus, we think that the consensus had been for about 180,000 total payroll jobs. We'd been looking for 150. So with the ADP number being a little bit lower than people might have thought.
Yeah, you're up front, right. Yeah, very good. Let's bring up the number here, folks, which really shows this challenge. Is Dr. Soss laid out three ideas on this economy, and the number's a big number today. It's the number of people employed in America in January of 2008. And you can see down below there the pain of 7+ million jobs that have evaporated, some with wage reductions, and part-time would take that to 9 or 10 million. Neal Soss, when are we going to see those 7 million jobs return? I would suggest it's going to be years, not quarters.
Oh, I certainly agree with that. I'm not pleased to have to agree with you. But we've done some work that suggests that in thinking about lost decades, which is such a common image applied to Japan, you could be in a circumstance where only in, let's say, 2017 do you get back all the jobs we already had in 2007. And that's the lost decade in American ways of thinking. And I would specifically note today's news in this regard. The services purchasing manager survey was very disappointing, to put it mildly. Oh. The fact that it's down is not a surprise. The fact that it's down this intensely is troublesome, because that's, of course, where the bulk of the jobs are still in the economy. Well,
I'm glad you brought that up, Neal, because then we see ISM manufacturing a few days ago, and it's elevated. Here it is, folks, out front as we delay, not derail, taking that from one of the Credit Suisse notes here. I mean, there's this dichotomy between a manufacturing renaissance and a strong corporate America and a lot of the other data. What are we going to see in this month of May? Is that ISM going to roll over and come back and join the service sector disappointment? Or can manufacturing lead us forward to a better economy?
Oh, you can do a lot of GDP, so to speak, with manufacturing, but it's hard to do a lot of jobs with it. And I think an even better way to see that, a more direct way to see that, is to recognize that one of the tremendous export opportunities that America has is in agricultural products. The Chinese are getting richer, they're eating better, they're better customers, and we are blessed with a large fertile, well-watered continent. So we're very good at agricultural export. You can get a lot of GDP from that. But agriculture is also an extremely high productivity sector in the economy, doesn't generate a lot of employment opportunities.
When you see all this, Neal, and you fold it all together, we're looking for a policy prescription. You were way out front in '07 talking about ring fencing, about subprime. And now we have to ring fence sovereign insolvency. And now we're going to supranational solution, IMF to the rescue, ECB. What are we going to do, ring fence the IMF? Where are we going in our policy prescription to get out of this?
Well, I think that you really want to deal not at a global level with the question you just posed. Europe has what you might think of as financial architecture issues. The common currency, but the absence of direct transfer mechanisms and so forth, puts Greece in a different position from Spain and a different position in turn from, let's say, the Netherlands or Germany. So you need to work on the architecture of that, and the IMF can provide a sort of bridge to smooth, if you will, that architectural problem. In the States, I don't think that's the nature of our problem. I think our problem is that, in fact, goes right back to our earlier conversation. In some ways, we are now looking like an emerging market of the past, where the domestic economy is not doing terribly well, but the export sector, symptomized, if you will, by that ISM manufacturing versus services kind of disparity, is what's got to carry the economy forward.